Hello, this is going to be my review on the 2025 Leaving Cert Physics exam. So I've reviewed the maths papers, now I'm going to go ahead and review the physics paper. So this is one of, if not I think the last exam on the old syllabus, which was around since about 2002 or 2003. So we're moving on to the one that has you pretty much answer in the booklet instead of on a separate answer booklet. So this year again, utilizing the COVID benefits in that you answer 3 experiment questions from 5 and then 5 long questions from 9. So the first experiment was a moments question. So we were expecting this for quite some time. It was one I felt like would be likely to come up. Kind of that Boyle's law and verification of G with a pendulum. They were kind of the ones that were being tossed up. But this is a very, very standard question. Pretty much all of the questions there, parts 1 through 7, are standard questions that you would have been, no doubt, had some experience with. But question 2 is a bit odd in that it added a conservation of momentum question, which is a bit odd in that it's 2 mechanics experiments when it's usually just the one. So I'm not sure what happened here, but as and ever, there's a conservation of momentum one. So all, again, very standard. They give you a lot of nice numbers, actually. These are all fairly nice ones to have. And then these questions I thought, well, everything part 5, 1 through 5 was okay, but then these, the top students would find them a good challenge. Part 3, now they gave you a graph in this one for whatever reason, but it's the speed of sound in air experiment. So this is using the 4F times L plus 0.3D formula, the one that isn't in the long tables, but fairly standard. Ooh. What's Microsoft Teams doing? Whatever. Now, this is where I felt it was a bit awkward. Last year there was one about lenses, but this is another one about refraction, which normally they don't duplicate topics between the 2 exams. But as ever, there's a Snell's law question. Again, very standard. This diagram was quite nice, including both the diagrams here. And then part 5, variation of potential difference of current. Again, all very standard. So I think the experiment questions were definitely straightforward enough. Definitely a challenge, or had some challenging bits in it. I think I'm happy enough with the choice of experiments. Now, section B is where it gets quite challenging. These short questions. Now, firstly, a hydrometer. I haven't actually gone through hydrometers with my classes, which I find is a slightly embarrassing, knowing that it's coming up here, but it's a bit of an odd choice. Part B, that was fine. Part C, now part C is a bit weird, because this is essentially an applied maths question. Now, you can make the argument that yes, you could like reasonably logic this out, but I think without the background of applied maths is a bit, it's kind of iffy. Converted colors, fine. Ray diagram, fine. That's asking about pressure, so that's okay. Parallel plate capacitor, guitar string, that's fine. This one's a bit weird, but it's essentially like a Doppler effect question in disguise. That's okay. That's fine, and yeah. So other than a few awkward little mechanics things, I'm pretty happy with the question 6. Now, question 7 was a gift, because this is something that I did with a couple of my students before. So we actually did it last night, sort of a kind of last minute revision class, going through a question pretty much exactly like this. Now, this is a bit of an awkward question down the end, but the rest of it was pretty much stuff we've covered. So I was very happy when that came up. I reacted quite loud, actually. I'm not going to lie. And then this came up. So diffraction as well was one I was predicting for a while, and diffraction came up. So that's pretty cool. Essentially talking about wave dynamics, then interference, and then probably one of the most standard diffraction grating questions ever, using kind of the same strategies and these kind of theory questions. So a very nice paper. Question 9, photoelectric effect. Again, I'm not really going to go through this in a whole lot of detail. I went through the ones in detail on the previous ones because I was quite happy they came up. Photoelectric effect kind of comes up nearly every second year or so. But again, just pretty much standard questions here. Although the last question here, it's a bit of a cool question, but again, it's quite common. Now, question 10, heat and temperature questions, so thermal stuff. Pretty much walking you through a fusion question, essentially, where two things kind of interact through heat. And then stuff about thermometer dynamics, essentially. So, bit of an awkward question, but entirely manageable. Now, question 11 was about circuits. Usually the circuit questions have a lot more maths in them. But this one actually has a lot more theory in it. And stuff about variable resistors haven't come up in quite some time. But the variable resistors and thermistors haven't come up in a while. So that's a bit of an interesting question that might have required you to think quite a bit. Now we get to the particle physics option question. Now here it's literally about the Kirchhoff-Walton experiment and stuff about decay and the positron. So some standard questions. There might have been a couple of the odd questions, such as question 5, for example. And question 6 was kind of assuming you to use E equals mc squared. I don't do the applied electricity one, so I'm going to skip over that one. And then we have the passage, which is about Michael Faraday. So this is all about electric and magnetic fields, and we were kind of nearly expecting a Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction here because it is talking about it. And then we have self-induction, which is honestly one of the most confusing things in the entire course, I would think. But I've gone through that with my own students before, so that's okay. And RMS current from a diagram, yeah, it's okay enough. Now, the question 14s were pretty standard for question 14s. There was Hooke's law. That's a pretty standard one. Now, a third refraction question, which I think is a bit weird that they included it, but as ever. Oh, a second one, not a third one, what was I saying? Some, essentially, nuclear physics, again, pretty standard questions. And then static electricity, which is another area of physics that I was predicting to come up. So all fairly okay. Right, and that's it. So overall thoughts, I'm fairly happy. I'm a lot happier than I was with the maths papers, I'll kind of say that much. It was a solid exam for people who definitely took their time, because I know a lot of students that I have kind of rushed through a lot of the problems, but if you kind of sat down and spent some time staring at a lot of the questions, you would have cracked it and would have answered it quite well. Now, this is the last exam for a lot of people that I have, so hopefully you're going to enjoy the summer. If not, best of luck in your final few exams.